everybody. Good morning. Welcome to, again, the Joint Effort Podcast. We're back here again. It's your boy Jerry Juice. We also got Ganja Bear Site. North Carolina Hemp Reviews is back. We got Dad. CJ will do it. Told us he's awake this time. So any moment now we might have him too. That would be a full cast. And that's quite the vibe.
Well, a lot of them moving forward on.
Dude, I took that diamond.
See,
No.
yeah, right. Why would they all be doing that if you know?
It just
Do they know something we don't?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Well, welcome everyone back to another Sunday. We know we just went through 2 weeks of no hope whatsoever. So why don't we switch up the vibe? Why don't we switch up the vibe a little bit? Because we need to hope a little bit. So let's look at the good sides of things. Maybe
Yes, I'm so down for
THCA,
that.
Maybe hemp isn't going anywhere as quick as we think. Because first of all, the FDA isn't showing up to their meetings. So shout out to the
We'll
FDA.
start there.
That was funniest news article I've read all week. They have the meeting to finally figure out what is botanical cannabis. Once again, spelt wrong, which I'm not sure why they cannot just add that second N in there. And the FDA doesn't even show up to their own meeting. So, homies.
Yeah, what a great illustration for their understanding of the plant. We misspell it and don't even show up to our own meetings.
That's just how the week
Hilarious.
started. That was like, what was that, Monday? We got off the podcast. We all probably went and did our own thing with our family. We get on Monday to our news bots, all telling us the meeting's happening.
That's
They're meeting to figure
Yes.
out what they're doing. We're like, oh, they didn't even
They didn't show up.
Didn't even show. Oh, well, at least we show up here on Sunday. We're here again, guys. Make sure you guys are getting your cannabis news, getting a nice little smoke sesh, having a couple people to smoke with. Sorry that we're not
Always.
two hosts this week. Not quite sure where Ganja Bear is. He even shared like the Instagram announcements last night. Like,
Maybe he's sleeping. Maybe he just hit the blunt of all blunts last night, and the boy is just in a fucking peaceful coma.
yeah, there's
know?
him and a group of people on the server have those mega jars of isolate that I'm not sure what they plan
Yeah.
on ever doing with because there's so much isolate in those jars. Maybe he just rolled a blunt of straight isolate. And if so, Ganja Bear, just make sure you recover okay, buddy. As long as you recover okay, everything's okay. Hey, I don't even know where to necessarily start with the news because the news was all over the place, type good. In the title, we put Florida. I do want to give a quick shout out before we get into the video. We always talk about what we're smoking. We got a little carried away there. Guys, I just loaded up a little bit of apple fritter from J. Liddy's.
Ooh.
This is the fancy sounding strain of the batch, but still sitting there at 31.6. The other two that were sent had massive jar appeal, but this one's still kind of shining through it. Actually, it has an apple smell, so that's nice. You got something special, bro?
I got some sour runts this morning. It is delicious.
Bro, sour runts. Is that like sour diesel with runts, or is it
Sour diesel and runts. Yep.
Ah, okay. Yep. That sounds nice. That sounds life cap. How are you out there in the audience and to the rest of the audience as you come in? Let us know what you're smoking on. One of the best moments of the day, guys. Shout out to I was almost going to say shout out to the DeSantis, but I don't really know if we can give him the credit or if we got to give the credit to the people of Florida. I did not see this coming, guys. I did not see this coming, but the people of Florida, you succeeded. So his response, his reasoning, what we're talking about is, if you don't know, they were about to ban THCA. They were about to ban Delta 8. All hemp-derived cannabinoids. Basically, they phrase it as any cannabinoid that gets you high is getting banned out of Florida. That got vetoed after passing, after seeming like a sure deal because we all thought we knew DeSantis.
Yeah, we did.
That got vetoed. And he said it was because of the phone calls he was receiving from all of the supporters. Everyone saying, hey, you're about to take away our medicine. Hey, we don't have a program yet. How can you take away our access?
Yes.
I think this
Well, and
echoes-
talk about, he's definitely miseducated on the plant, so at least props to him for listening to the people. Like, hey,
Yeah.
you people want it. That's what you're there to do. To represent the people. That's
Can't remember what hemp company it was, but did you see the part where he actually went to all the hemp companies?
I did.
He negotiated with them. So,
Yeah.
of
Mhm.
course, this is politics at the end of the day. As much
Right.
as we want to say shout out to DeSantis, the reason that we had to say shout out to the Florida citizens for pushing his envelope is because DeSantis, I think he saw this as an opportunity. There was a little bit of, I don't even want to
Yes.
say foul
Yeah.
play. There was some interesting play because the rest of the states are so willing to let these dispensaries come in. What DeSantis basically did is he went to the hemp companies and he said, I will let your market survive if you stop the legalization of cannabis in the state. So, as much as we stopped hemp from being outlawed, you guys are waiting for your recreational market again. Recreational cannabis got pushed back in the place of hemp.
Well, and what a weird, like, how long are we going to go on with this little teeter totter of this loophole? It's like, DeSantis, what you're saying effectively is you guys can have cannabis as long as we push back cannabis.
Yeah, you
It's
can
like,
have
come
your
on now,
cannabis
man,
as
fuck.
long as you plan on harvesting all of your plants about a month earlier than the rest of the country typically does. As long as you harvest the
So
plants
funny.
and only sell about 86% of the cannabis genetics in the country, you should be okay.
Right. Like,
You
should be good.
Besides
ugh.
genetics and harvest date, there's really no difference. So yes, there is a
No.
slight difference in how it'll make you feel, what it is, and a lot of THCA people tell you otherwise. But the differences are at most harvest date and sometimes genetics.
Yes.
And
That's it.
that's wild that they're using this as it seems wrong for a politician to use this as leverage, right? It's something for the businessman to see
Yeah.
a loophole, jump on it, run with it. But for the politician to say this loophole was created and I don't like the cannabis companies trying to come into my state, can you guys help keep them out? Was interesting. Interesting.
Mhm.
It doesn't, it creates short term and long term problems.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Yep.
the federal envelope moves forward, all this work in Florida just ends up being for nothing. If
Yep. Yep.
I don't know, man. I don't know. Maybe if
Well, and it's
more
hard because
states
it's like,
took a stance like this, then the hemp companies could garner enough
Yeah.
money. And then if the hemp companies garner enough money, and something the hemp companies got to think about, anybody who watches, why haven't we been pooling money together to have lobbyists to go fight these things for us? It looks like we have some interesting legal battles. It looks like we can actually
Yes.
win at this point if we do the right things. If the FDA keeps not
Yep.
showing up to meetings, if we keep getting people to make phone calls, let's get the money to get those campaigns going. Let's get the money to get the lobbyists hired.
yep.
But
Well, and I have a weird, like, an interesting little tinfoil hat moment here, but we talk about the election coming up and how much of this is just talk versus how much will get really done on paper before the election. And with with Trump's conviction and stuff, and some people are like, oh, is he gonna run? Can he run? Blah, blah, all that stuff's kind of up in the air. You see online now. If
and it looks like
it
yes, he can
unequivoc-
run quick. I had to look
does,
that
right?
up. I had to look that up the other day. So you can't necessarily
Yeah.
vote as a felon in every state, but no state prevents a felon from running for president. Like,
Mm. Yeah.
so even if the
Well, and
felony
so you-
sticks, or when the felony sticks, however
Right.
y'all want me to phrase this,
Right.
right? He can still run.
Right. Exactly. And I think once it is, assuming it hasn't already been, but like if it is in any sort of really official way confirmed or doubled down that he's running in spite of the conviction and all this stuff, that's when I wonder if anything from the other party will start to get concrete about this so they can use it. And it's just weird because you see all these states in the last week pushing for medical programs or rec programs aside from Florida, which is really trying to keep hemp and cannabis separate. It's just interesting because there's the one school of thought of some people in government are trying to finally bring hemp and cannabis together into the one plant we know and understand and have some similar regulations in states that just have a hemp market as in states that have a medical program. And it's funny because it all at the end of the day is it's not even about the plant. It's all about
Money.
those that are in the industry, exactly, that are fighting for hemp to go away are dispensary owners, people that have had to go through the red tape the government puts in place for them to own their business because they look at someone in Texas or a state that is heavily hemp
Yep.
based, and they're like, this person makes sometimes arguably more than I do, and they don't have to go through all this red tape. So it's hard because you get it when you look at it from that lens. I get their point. It should be an even playing field, but it's like then let's actually have that conversation because it's not about the plant.
Oh,
You know, like
100%. Because it's this is people playing chess with hypothetical. I mean,
Exactly.
theoreticals at this point. So when it all happened, everyone was so quick to jump. And that's why I love the Discord. Thank you all for making me even second guess my thoughts, my opinions, and stuff. Because now I'm gonna play devil's advocate with stuff I maybe said in this episode. Because when this whole THCA loophole came to being, we were all like, "Wow, these politicians, these idiots, they didn't know what was going on." And maybe the overwhelming majority of them were idiots and didn't know
True.
what was going on. What if some of them were actually really smart, or just smart enough, had enough of a science background to understand that almost everything has an acidic precursor in this regard? That this is nothing new. They had to understand acidic precursors. Our government, yeah, we didn't have the research because it wasn't the scheduling, whatever you want to say, but the military had
Right.
the research. And the military is part of the government, last I checked. So our government had the research knowing that you had to decarb cannabis for it to work. It's step one of making THCO. You can look up the inception of that. So there's money trails that are to suggest that members of the GOP were very happy to let this loophole go through because they weren't the ones who had the big wins or won over cannabis thus far on the federal level. That would be the other party. The DNC has, as far as money trails go, once again, profited more. Families of DNC members, yada yada, weird investment type stuff. If you track how their families invest, the DNC profited more off marijuana thus far. You know, but it's not the same with hemp. With hemp, families like the McConnells have made a lot of money since THCA has become a thing. CBD was what he was investing in, yes, but those were the companies that blew up with all of these loopholes. So again, that's a little more tinfoil cap-esque, but I don't think this is here by accident. It's also would then add up how things aren't moving as fast as we thought that they would. When they started making these announcements, we thought states would start making movement. We thought businesses would start shutting down. We thought
Right.
actions would start being taken, that police forces might start being mobilized. Nothing has started happening yet. Meaning there's money on both sides. And I think
Yeah,
that
and it's weird
is-
because at like the passive headline level, if you just pay attention to that, it kind of seems like hemp is going away. There's this weird new attack on the hemp market, and like you said, we're thinking maybe police forces are going to be mobilized. But then if you look at like the micro details and the micro stories, there's all this progression forward.
market's
Dallas
just
is looking
growing
at
faster than ever
decriminalization.
too.
Yes, yes.
So many states have been able to roll out in the midst of this their own tax systems.
Yep.
I don't know.
One. This is one thing I'll shout out. I was listening to Dope as Yola's podcast the other day, and I really respect his perspective on this. That he was being asked about is THCA finally going away? Is hemp going away? And I'll paraphrase. You can go watch the video, but effectively he was like, "No, I don't think so." He talked about how we've seen patterns of this in the past, or they tried to. He touched a little bit on what you said about. Read between the lines. There's a motivation and underlying motives as to why this isn't going away, and they're throwing this message out right now how they are, and I think a lot of it is that there may be some changes coming, but
Yeah.
Uncle Sam
I'm-
loves this money too much. You know,
How did they get? I mean, let's think about how they. Step one of getting people to quit nicotine and cigarettes was to start rolling out the media. So it's restrict any marketing of it so that they can't show it in a positive light. and now you put out marketing against it. That
Hmm.
was one thing that the government did. Step one of this. I mean, so private bodies could take the same practice. I feel like you want to get rid of Delta 8 or you want to get rid of THCA or these intoxicating cannabinoids, as they call them. By the way, we like to refer to them as medicating cannabinoids. Like they just medicate you in a different way, and people should use things responsibly regardless. Uh, Roll out the news stories, the bad things about them. Get that stuff out there. And this is why we need supporters to make content too. This is why it's
Right.
so important people understand their platforms. Sometimes I feel like I'm an asshole the way I talk about some content creators. And if I have ever been and you've been offended by me, I'm sorry, because sometimes I'm a bit serious saying, like, you have a large influence. I really wish you would stop or at
Yeah.
least have disclosures or at least be a positive
Yep.
influence in some of your content. The occasional blinker is not a bad thing, but this is just an example. If all of your content is blinkers in Target, blinkers in Walmart, I'm going to go get super damn faded. Mess with
I can't
strangers when I'm
stand
faded.
that fucking shit.
Mess with,
Oh my
and then
God,
they go out there and they
no.
start doing this bad
No.
stuff with strangers. It's like, no, you're
No.
not helping.
You're an
with this.
asshole.
Yeah,
You're an
that's-
asshole. Like,
I mean,
sorry,
one of
like-
your jobs is to be an entertainer, right? And this shit can be very entertaining. And like,
Sure.
shout out, yeah, like it's probably why you go viral so much is because you're really good at viral content. But you
Sure.
have influence. You have influence in
Right.
a brand new market, and there's a grassroots principle that I wish content
Right.
creators would think about, as well as businesses more often.
Right.
But some businesses,
Right.
It's,
right.
let's show
Well, and
this
it's like
in a positive.
and there's
light.
nothing wrong with the pursuit of virality, but it's in how you pursue it, right? Like you can be
Yes.
famous. If you're famous because you're a mass murderer, probably not a good thing. If you're
No.
famous for right, so it's like I can't stand like some of those content creators, especially like I'll fucking
Yep.
say it, like Fulcrum, who's fucking huge. I'm like, dude, stop going in the
The
fucking
sound effects are
produce
hilarious.
section.
It's so
They're hilarious, but to go in there and boom, there's a fucking 80-year-old grandma trying to get a cantaloupe next. It's like, bro,
100%.
grow the fuck up. Like-
He's like 20. He just had a kid. I'm wondering if we're going to see a big change on him, bro.
I was wondering.
I
the
mean,
same
I
thing. He
think we've
talked about
already
that.
kind of been on the last year. I think the last 2 years even, but we see some like fighting because he knows what gets him the views, clicks, etc. And that pivot might be a painful
Yep.
one.
Well, that was like,
but
did you
I
see?
feel like we're seeing it because in his interviews, he went from being spaced out and saying as few words as possible to play part of his character to saying some pretty damn smart stuff every once in a while. And I was so
Well,
like,
it was-
shout out to him. I know he's playing a character. It's just like, bro, but like,
Your character's annoying as fuck. Your character's an asshole. Well,
it
it's funny. On the
just-
Dope is Yola podcast, he was asked, like, have you thought about when your kid is older and watches your content? And you could tell he was like, I never really thought about that. And it was wild. You could see that shift of like, oh shit, I'm leaving a trail and a legacy, not just for these people that sub to me, but my kid's gonna watch. What's my kid gonna think about this stuff? And you
Yeah.
could see in that real Marty was asking him because Marty's got older kids, and he was like,
And now triple that down on how many views he's capable of getting millions of views on a video, right?
yes,
Millions of people seeing him do X, Y, Z. This means that he's the one that most likely these legislators are going to see.
and use as a poster child for whatever they want to push. Absolutely.
Or what they think that people do. They're going to think he's the normal.
Oh,
I don't
so
think the
yeah,
average
yes.
dude's walking down Walmart aisle 7, taking 7 blinkers and then saying, hey, you want to take a hit too? And the person says, can you stop
Yes.
taping in my face? Same stuff
yes.
like it's causing this negative legislation.
Yep.
And then on the hemp side, like if you want the hemp market, because guess what? We were born from a loophole, so we will be under attack. If you want this to survive, you got to even double down on that perspective and not show it
Mhm.
off in these crazy ways. I wasn't it like an anime, half naked anime girl was on his package for his THCA company when he won that shit.
Yeah, I think so. Oh, and we got in the chat. You want THCAE juice? There is a way you can do that. actually. If you get yourself, I've done it before, THCA isolate, and I can't remember if you want the majority PG or majority VG. I think it's VG that you want. Get a very heavy VG liquid and mix in your isolate. Give it a really, really good shake, and it will fully dissolve. And then pop that in your rig, and you got medicated e juice. I think I had a video up on that actually still, but
That's
you can do that.
incredible.
It does work.
Hey,
It does. Yeah, you can go for it. Ask a question. Go for it.
but yeah, wild. to
Yeah, it
be
does work.
honest.
Wild stuff. It's crazy. It's insane, you know. But it'll be interesting to see if Fulcrum and it continues to change. And it's just wild. People as they grow up, and you just have you've got a different set of priorities. Things start happening, and you just you know
Think about how we want people to view this plant.
absolutely.
How do you want the next generation to view it? Do you want the next generation to view it as, oh, that's that cool thing that I should go steal from my parents so that I can abuse with my friends?
Right.
Or should they view it as something that, wow, that really makes my dad calm down after he gets his session?
Right.
Or
Absolutely.
lets my dad dial
Yep.
into his tasks, his jobs, or it helps him get a whole second
Yep.
wind in the afternoon for him to go get even more. There's positive
Absolutely.
lights that can be shown in.
Yep.
I know it's
Yep.
the stigma is
absolutely.
not going to
Absolutely.
be broken by
Nope.
ourselves, villainizing this plant. We got to be
Absolutely.
able to show
No,
it in a
you can't. It
positive
can't
light.
be if it's stigmatized. If it is stigmatized in the home, then all you are building is rebellion in your child. That's all you're building, and it's it has to. I look at it. It's in this respect very similar to a firearm, right? Am I going to have my 3-year-old in the room with me when I'm smoking? Of course not. Am I going to have my toddler in the room with me when I'm practicing with my firearms?
No.
Of course not. But as my child grows and is in a home where there are firearms, is he going to understand what that is, how to use it, when to use it, and use it effectively? Yeah.
Then there's the question like,
Duh.
would you clean the gun in front of the child? Ammunition's also
Right.
in the different room, but are you comfortable cleaning the gun
Absol-
in the living room in front of the child so he sees the gun? What
Yes.
would the problem with that be in that situation?
Right.
I know some people
Right.
are scared of guns, so we're not trying to trigger no one. But like the hypothetical
course.
is
Of
like
course.
this is a tool that people have
course.
used for all of history since we've made since the inception
Yes.
of
Right.
firearms. People have owned them
Correct.
to protect themselves and hunt. So people who have protected themselves responsibly their whole life, keyword on the
Mhm.
responsibly their
Right.
whole life, right? They should teach their kids how to responsibly do it. Because if everyone upholds that responsibility, we live in a safer society with these things.
Absolutely.
Right? Then we don't have to villainize
Absolutely.
the item, the tool.
Mm-hmm.
People can equate that to cannabis, and I know it's kind of weird because we don't usually equate these two. Because when you get the medical card in our society, they say you can't have the other one, which is kind
know.
of crazy. Because maybe if you have medical cannabis in your house, you have another reason to want to protect your house. But
It is wild. And
is
it's weird
wild.
because I know the state of Arizona doesn't enforce that, which is very odd.
yeah,
I'm walking proof of that. I don't know.
A lot
It was
of
weird.
states just a few states decided, not a lot, to just not enforce
Well,
it. And aren't there states actually going to like they're putting state level legislation, which is going to be interesting because again, this is going to be another federal contradiction, which
Yes.
federal law always supersedes state law. This is why we're
Yep.
supposed to have as few federal laws as possible, in my opinion, because these contradictions can cause so many issues with police forces, and I would hate to see what this one's going to cause.
Well, there's certain
you're
states
going to
you
be able
can't
to have
even.
a medical card and firearm.
Yep. Like
But
in
then
Arizona.
If the
and I
FBI
think-
showed up, the FBI would technically have to reprimand you.
Well, I
That's
don't
the
know if it's
federal
in-
contradiction I'm talking about.
Of course. Well, and I don't know if it's this way in Denver, but at least it's this way in Arizona. I know, like you don't have to register your firearm, and
Oh,
you
word.
can sell like out
Oh,
of the
yeah.
like to a private party. A private sale is totally
Private
fine,
sales are okay, in,
and
like,
that doesn't
New
have to be
York
registered. So it's
even.
like if you want a private sale and that firearm is not registered, and you sell it to someone who has a medical card,
Yeah.
that happens all the time. So
100%.
you know,
100%.
it's crazy.
So many loopholes to so many things. Yet they're
Oh,
worried
it
about
really
this
is.
THCA loophole when they.
I know.
Wow. the villainization of items slash tools too.
Absolutely.
It's like these things
It's
help
it's
certain people in
it's
life.
wild. Yep. Yep.
Let's
Well, and that's why we always go
villainize.
back to the same topic when they talk about the really piss poor argument that people in government make that this we need to close the hemp market because it's getting in the hands of these products get in the hands of children and
Oh yeah,
so many children have gotten sick and blah blah blah. Like, listen, no one wants these products in the hands of kids, but much like a firearm or anything else, your responsibility as the adult that owns the product, or the business owner to not sell to a minor. It's like it's
yep.
same thing with anything. It's like, if a child got their hands on a firearm, does that mean we make guns illegal? No, we
No,
hold the person that allowed that kid to get the gun in their hands responsible.
100%,
So,
100%.
Life Cap says, you guys from the Midwest. Born and raised in Denver, live in Texas. How'd you tell?
I am not. I'm in the
Oh, no,
Northeast.
Gary is not. Yeah, I was gonna
I'm
say.
in the Northeast. Sometimes my opinions can get a little unpopular.
What I was gonna say, you either gotta admit the way it's
That's
these
why you
opinions
see
are
me
either
play those
Midwest
couple
or East Coast Italian. Like
That's why
they
you
kind of
play-
coalesce.
That's why I played a little bit of PR every once in a while.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
hey,
And if you're
Um,
and if you're from the Midwest and an East Coast Italian, then it's just a double-edged sword. Which yours truly, thank you very much.
it's just. Again, I think one of the highlights is on another week we said this could be the safety net as they roll out federal marijuana properly and figure out how to
Yeah.
do this safely. What regulations are necessary to keep people safe in their mind? Because I know there's got to be
Yep.
some, because that's also how they get their tax dollars. We gotta make those phone calls. I think it just the biggest thing that we've proven is that we can still make an impact. I
Yeah.
don't know if this means that it's seeming like the impact is more easily made in states run by the GOP at the moment. So if you can get in contact, especially with your friends who live in said states, encourage them, start calling your local representatives, senator, make sure you educate them on what these hemp things actually are. These, mind you, I use the word things actually selectively there, because to them they're just things. They don't understand the difference or what any of these actually are. They just understand this intoxicating cannabinoid sauce on the market getting people
Yeah.
fried.
Yeah.
That's what they
Yep.
think, and they think it's getting mainly to kids' hands because that's the story being fed to them. So we talked
Well, and
about the
it's-
propaganda. Now we need the positive content creation. There's not enough of the positive content creation, so we need people. They call them foot soldiers, and some
Yeah.
they get actually on the phone or get on your feet to go to the local events and talk to these local politicians, the people around them. Let them know. Let them know.
Absolutely.
And be like, hey, let's at least
Absolutely.
keep this market going. Don't lose all these jobs until we got
Yeah.
a market where these people can easily transition.
Yes.
Mind you, hemp employees are going to have an awful time transitioning. I mean, some hemp employees might have an awful time transitioning to other work if they were to lose their
Yes.
job.
Oh, absolutely.
The stigma's
Absolutely.
not gone. They don't have cannabis jobs to switch to yet.
Absolutely, dude. And they may have put in place a practice of how they're able to medicate that is effective with their work that is now totally gone that they can't do. And Jerry's taking care of his pooch. And it's so wild because you see, you hope that this industry is not just going to go away. The government can't just wipe it clean. And I don't think they will, because ultimately Uncle Sam wants his money. But you're right, Jerry. If people don't have a way to transition from maybe their hemp-based business into a more regulated industry nationally, it's like, and that's why I don't think it's going to happen before the election, because the unemployment numbers would
Yep.
skyrocket, killing that industry. And then the current party has like, how are you going to run on that? So but yeah, they have to at least have a buffer period while the transitionary mechanism gets invented to give them a way to be compliant with
Yep.
the marijuana industry, or keep the hemp industry going as a sole and separate thing.
Because many cities and I think 3 states moved to like have decriminalization procedures put into place
Yeah.
this last week. So again,
Yes.
that's part of that good news question mark. Question mark on
Yeah.
that is are these states doing this as a preventative protective measure for the continuance or the
Right.
ending of the hemp market.
That's
Because
a great
the hemp
point.
market could have said, quote unquote,
Mm.
protected these people in some states, right? It allowed for them to
Right.
possess hemp. If you have a COA, you felt safe having the stuff because you could talk about how this is not cannabis. We take away that ability. Maybe the decriminalization is there so that they don't get in trouble for the product they already had. But the
Right.
issue with that being is this movement towards that, because that's not a substitution,
No, it's not.
because the
But you're
supply
right.
chain ends.
Yeah. Well, and that's true. I didn't think about it that way. Like, is the decriminalization that's happening right now preparatory for hemp going away as a way to allow your citizens then? Okay, well now you're not protected from the farm bill loophole via hemp, therefore you're protected under the. It's now considered marijuana because
Yep.
it's to all THCA is that, but you're protected because we decriminalize that, so you're good.
100%.
Yeah. Huh. Yeah. Wow.
It
Could be that. It totally could be that too.
Decriminalization is definitely better than nothing.
Sure.
So first of all, always take a step forward if decriminalization could be put into place next to the
Mhm.
farm bill. That would
Mhm.
allow for you to both purchase and possess for lengths of time, because
Yeah.
the actual science on the plant is technically that THCA, if you're not properly storing your flower, and even if you are properly storing your flower, can turn more D9 over time.
Yeah. Right.
And will turn more
Yes,
D9
and will.
over time. And so eventually, quote unquote, could become hot, especially if you buy like an ounce. Like by the end of that ounce, it
Mhm.
might be. The decriminalization would keep you safe from the cop actually going and testing the product type.
Right. Yeah.
And that's great. Again,
Wow.
that creates the safety net till we get to the federal legalization.
Yeah.
That keeps citizens safe.
Mhm.
States, again, can tax hemp. Tennessee
Yes.
does it. Other states do it. Just
Yep.
tax the hemp.
Yeah.
I mean, Tennessee, bad example, I guess, because now they're trying to put all
Te-
the hemp
Texas
out
taxes
of the
hemp.
market. But Texas taxes hemp.
Yep.
Tax the hemp. And let's continue moving forward.
Yeah.
Let's continue moving
Mhm.
forward. Like,
Yeah.
they could leave the farm bill loophole if they legalize
Mhm.
marijuana. I don't think that people are really seeing that, right? Because then you can just
No,
put an
for sure.
equal tax on the two markets. That's simple.
Yep.
Outs-
Yeah, that's crazy.
Put a waiver for purchases of over X amount, or for purposes that can be disputed as industrial hemp, right?
Yep.
Put the tax in
Yep.
place on the hemp market with a waiver in place for businesses that are going to use it industrially. And then just have the market. You don't got to get rid of this. Like, there's no reason to patch the loophole if we're going to eventually legalize it. So
Right.
why don't we just keep
Absolutely.
the safety net? Keep the safety
Right.
net, and then roll
Yeah.
out another tax. Like, government,
Yes.
they have no problem
Right.
ever rolling out another tax. Just roll out another tax.
Right.
Like, because at this point,
Yep.
it won't be another.
No. I agree. And like you said, it makes no point to deal with the hemp loophole if you're just going to make it legal. It's like putting a band-aid on something you're going to amputate. It's like there's no point then. It's
I mean,
like, you know,
like, nothing's accomplished at that point is basically the
No.
issue being.
nothing. You accomplish nothing, you know? Absolutely. Absolutely.
All the states can roll out measures where you can only sell the THCA in dispensaries.
Mhm.
Then the
Right.
federal government can legalize cannabis, have their federal tax they want on it, have the same one
Right.
on the hemp industry. What is the
Right.
point of patching this loophole? There is none.
There isn't a
Except for the people who literally want to go 6 months to a year in their state having no cannabis.
right.
And then again, why are you going to go terrorize, torture your citizens and take it away from them 6 months when they're just going to get it back on the federal legalization later
Right.
on? It's
Right.
Stupid. You're also forcing them to the black
No,
market. They'd also have a better job
Yes.
regulating the hemp industry. I don't know. Do we have time? What are we at? We do have time. Here's an interesting topic I've been wanting to talk with you about, right? So, I've been looking into what it takes to be a hemp producer.
Okay.
What type of labs these hemp producers would have to get, and how regulated they are. So as far
Okay.
as the people growing and processing the hemp, they're damn regulated, to the same point of a cannabis grower or producer, up
Yeah.
to the point of sale. So they're just allowed to sell a wider range of product. To my research,
Sure.
people feel
Okay.
free to
Yeah.
dispute this in the comments, whatever, if you're more wise than I am and you got a legal degree, right? So this means that these hemp growers, producers have the multi-page lab reports, certificates of analysis.
Yeah.
So we've been called out for being nerds because we actually read the certificates of analysis on our products. That's kind of fun.
Yeah.
I think it's funny because this means we should have pages, or that these hemp companies selling us the THCA products, the CBD products, have the pages that talk about the terpene levels. And we see this from some of them, right? So give credit where credit's due.
Mm-hmm.
The heavy metal testing
Mm-hmm.
and so on. There's more pages than that we're not so
Yes.
aware of if you've bought more hemp products. But those are two pages I'm always very particularly curious on. And whenever you buy dispensary flower in a legal state, legal market, they have to provide you all these pages.
Yes.
So you would know about the heavy metal testing, etc. So we always in the
Always.
hemp market at least get, and hopefully it's honest, a one-page
Hopefully.
COA. This one-page COA tells you all of the cannabinoid levels, moisture content,
Mm-hmm.
and a couple other things.
Yeah.
But that's about it.
Yep.
Why, despite the farms having them, I get it, they don't have to give them to us because it's not required for sale in the hemp market, right?
Sure.
It's not required for them to show us these pages, but they're there.
Right. Yep.
The farm already has it.
Mm-hmm.
The farm's the one that submitted this product for testing. Again,
Mhm.
this is for the companies who are distributors, not growing their own product. Why don't you pass on all of the lab with the flower that you're passing on?
Right. Yep. And include the heavy metal testing and everything in there. Not just maybe a pass fail rating, but
Yep.
what would all the specific, was there anything found? What did you use? Yeah, absolutely.
More and more we're learning that
Yeah.
the terpenes, and
Mhm.
hopefully soon there will be flavonoid testing and other things,
Yeah.
because those have such effects on what your effects are going to be.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Um,
Yeah. They have an effect on your effect.
They have an effect on your effects. But also, question mark, heavy metal test, question mark.
So true.
Is it being hidden? Is that potentially why this isn't being passed on? Is my question. Secondarily, we can build upon that because we know the government likes to play games, and maybe they have a bigger understanding than we think. When they were commanding farms to stop selling hemp if they were selling cannabis, was it possibly to prevent them from selling the products that weren't testing to regulatory measures, that product that they can no longer sell to the dispensary because it didn't hit regulatory measures, but it was because of heavy metals? And this happens quite often when you talk to growers. Was that just being shifted to the THCA market and being sold there?
I see what you're saying. So yeah, I think first question, I think that, or answer to the first question, I think there's got to be players that do that. It's probably not across the board, but I would imagine, right, if you're a business owner, a hemp business owner with some jaded intentions, and you have a crop that you get from a farm, you have the full list of paperwork, you see the heavy metal testing, and it doesn't, maybe let's even go here where it theoretically passed. It's under the threshold, but there's still heavy metals in it. And I, as the business owner, think, okay, if I post this full paperwork online, my customers that read this and take the time to read it may see it's got aluminum or zinc or whatever the fuck in it,
Yep.
and that could lead to a PR spin in a bad way for me. So what I'm going to do is just put this first page on that shows it's compliant THCA percentage and sell that. I would imagine that's got to at least be happening at some level.
Good morning,
Now,
Frank.
second question. I think that in addition to that, probably happening, I would imagine if you are, at least before they were forcing farmers to really pick hemp or cannabis, you're just growing hemp, right? And you're selling what is not hemp compliant to dispensaries. You're selling what is hemp compliant to the hemp market. And let's say you have a crop that you intend on selling to a dispensary, but technically meets hemp COA. There's under under 0.3 delta 9, but you were planning on selling it to a dispensary. But
Yeah.
then when you go and get it tested, it doesn't meet the dispensary's criteria for like heavy metals. Yeah, as a business owner, are you just going to say, "Well, shit out of luck, got to get rid of that crop," or are you going to say, "Well, hey, this actually also meets from a percentage standpoint, it meets hemp. So let's just ditch these other 4 pages that show heavy metals and let's sell it to the hemp market." That's crazy. And I would imagine that that has to be happening too. You hate, there are absolutely good people in this industry that do things the right way. They don't cut corners because I've always gone on the record saying there is absolutely an ethical way to make a shit ton of money with this plant. Like there's a way to make a lot of money and do it ethically with cannabis. But I would imagine that, and it probably doesn't happen as much anymore now that the government has actually drawn a line in what you can and cannot farm and crop. If you want to farm hemp, it's only hemp, and if you want to farm, grow cannabis for the medical side, it's only cannabis for the medical side. But I would imagine, Jerry, that like you said, there's as a business owner, right? If you're growing hemp and I'm going to sell it to this dispensary, but technically on paper, from a cannabinoid standpoint, it could be hemp, or it could be I could sell it to the dispensary and it's just under 0.3. But I had it tested. This dispensary says, it's not compliant because it doesn't meet this, and this.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I guess I could either just burn the crop, or since it actually meets the hemp farm bill, let's just ditch these
Right
5 pages
away.
that show it didn't, and then so it's got to be happening. It's got to be,
That's
you know.
the weird
Well, what's
reality I was
weird-
starting to think of the other day because I'm like going
Yeah.
between. I mean, the majority of vendors, companies do not offer these pages.
And who does, right? Are there any hemp companies that show their full heavy metal? That's what I'm thinking. Like, what companies fully show all of their paperwork? Because if
Yeah.
no one's doing it, then that's really odd. You think there'd be one that'd be like, "Hey, here you go. Here is everything.
Everything.
Heavy metals."
I mean,
Boom.
it only takes one company. And here's the thing about the market that is interesting at its point of unregulation. If somebody was to make this their selling point, their marketing point, their slogan, even THCA
Yeah.
flower with all the labs, that could be
Yeah.
the company.
Yeah,
You could call it. You
yeah.
could call the company
True
True
hemp
Lab.
or True Labs or True Hemp Labs or yes, like
Best Labs.
clear
Like-
cannabis or something. Yeah, something that is we are actually about doing it the 100% right way. You see everything. You
Tested
can
flower
where it was
like,
grown, the seed date, the harvest date, all of for
all
sure.
of it, every page.
The terpene
Explained,
breakdown.
actually, like
Mhm.
not actually just those complicated looking documents, like also like a quick
Mhm.
summary on the front so you can just quickly read everything and understand exactly what your flower is. Like,
Well, and then
this company could just run with that, and that would force the envelope. That would cause everybody else
Well,
to have to start producing these labs.
you wonder, take it one level higher too, right? Because right now we're kind of looking at this as there's a gap in from farm to hemp company where the farm is giving the hemp company all that paperwork, but the hemp company is deciding to not give it all to the public. But I'm sure that is happening. But what if also, because the farmers still have a business, and what if they are not giving all the paperwork to the hemp company, right? They like, hey, you know what? We have this stockpile of shit that we can't, as a farm, sell to dispensaries, but it is hemp compliant, but it
You
is
want-
kind of high in heavy metals. But let's just not include that paperwork to all of our vendors.
Yep.
And so they're almost like, like take just
So
random
the
THCA
vendors may
company. They're almost
figure it
shit out of
out,
luck
but they
until
now
they
have the
figure it out. But if
product
they
in their hand, and they're all
and then
small
they're like, shit, do we
companies.
want to call out our farm and lose that profit, or say, turn the other cheek? Here you go, public. It's still cannabis. It's just kind of high in heavy metals. So here you go, make our money and laugh all the way to the
Yeah.
bank.
Yep. Yeah, and some growers have talked to a few people afterwards. They said that the heavy metal requirements are kind of crazy for dispensaries. That a lot of crop is burned every year on dispensary grows, the dispensaries that grow for themselves. So that was interesting to learn. Like I guess the metal levels is something strange. So I just
Yeah.
learning that I was like, huh, there's somebody being a little dishonest.
Yep.
But so which level is these metal?
Right.
This is why education is important, right? Like maybe even the company,
Right.
one company comes forward and they say, hey, the reason we're able to get this flower so cheap, the reason that we have $50 ounces, the reason that we have $60
Yes.
ounces,
Yes.
something like that. If you have these crazy prices that dispensaries would never dream of, why?
Well, and I think it's a sign of
Explain
the
it.
bullish run on once THCA was exposed. So many people were like, "Hey, I can." It was almost like the Shopify mentality of weed. I
Yeah.
can create a storefront, buy from the farm, bam, I got a cannabis company. And
Mm-hmm.
props to the people that did that. It's a great shoe and it's a gold rush for a business. But then, just like almost the course creating thing, back when online courses were first huge, you actually could learn something legitimate from an expert that otherwise would take a lot of time and money. But then
Yep.
everyone realized I can specialize any fucking skill I think I have, sell it to a bunch of idiots, and make money. And it
Yep.
diluted that space. It's the same thing. It's like there initially you could get some really good cannabis that was hemp compliant at first. You still
Yeah.
can, but it's harder to find because everyone and their mother is jumping on and making a company. And then you find, wow, all of a sudden today, 8 companies I buy from all have updates, all with the same 7 strains. Right? And it's like that's the
Yeah.
negative side of doing that business model that way at scale is then
That's nice.
you're going to see those patterns of not compliant COAs or dishonest COAs. And
Yeah.
if you, as a hemp business owner, did that, you're shit out of luck. And then if you're on a farm that's doing that, then you are, I mean, you're only one THCA company, but if you're a farm and you do that, you're fucking every one of your vendors, you know? Which is why I wish more companies would grow themselves instead of just go for the bull run of let's get quick profit, find a couple. And I get it,
Yep.
but like if more people would grow themselves, it'd be
True.
huge.
I mean, if people
know?
would pool resources and talk about mission a little bit more, I get
Yeah.
that a lot of the industry, a lot of the hemp market, especially, saw money.
Yeah.
And they saw money in a time frame, right?
Yeah.
When they heard loophole,
Yes.
they said, okay, that means
Absolutely.
eventually gone. Never did anybody
Absolutely.
think, or never did a lot of these companies sadly think toward the beginning or their inception. And you really got to have these thoughts while the inception of your company is happening. How do I grow responsibly? How do I
Yes.
grow in such a way that this market will survive longer? How do I grow
Absolutely.
in such a way that I will do good to all the people, right?
Yes.
Um,
Yep. And it's similar to like a relationship. I love the quote of what you don't bring up is what you're going to settle for.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. It's like what you don't triage in those initial stages, like, oh, I'll deal with that later. No, fuck no. Because then it's going to turn into a big problem. You have to have that attention at first of how can we grow in a way that is actually scalable, maintainable, ethical,
Yep.
and can account for things like this, which
Yep.
is
Because eventually the cat gets out the bag. It's
yes. Yes.
I mean,
and the longer it
look,
waits for
I
the
just
cat to get
asked
out of the
the
bag,
question.
the
I don't
more
think-
collateral damage.
I haven't seen other content that asked this question yet. I know some people talked about it. And thank you to anybody who also brought it up to me in my DMs. I think I had this discussion with like 3-4 different people now who come from the cannabis industry to the hemp industry and saw this right off the bat. And it's just quite interesting that people don't realize there are people in legal states buying THCA hemp. And
Yep.
THCA hemp companies are literally saying, go check the COA to see that these things are the same. And we're like, sweet, the first page is the same, but where's the second page, the third page, the fourth page?
Yep.
Like,
Yep. I know. Yeah.
it does in a weird spot. Weird spot. And you're right.
Yeah.
Who's the one pulling it over?
Yeah.
Is
Right.
everybody who's doing it just okay with it?
Right. Right.
And like,
'Cause
are
that's
these
the
metal
weird
levels
thing.
also not that bad? And if so, can we just get some education on that? Like, do you want to come
Absolutely.
forward and say,
Absolutely.
like, yo, dispensaries have unrealistic regulatory measures. Here are 3 bills that we are using the money that we get from this cannabis profits to go fight on the legal side to ensure that when we have to transition pivot to a legal business model, we can still serve budget cannabis like this.
Right.
Maybe
Right.
we just need to be educated on it, right?
Yes.
But I don't want to feel like I'm smoking the throwaways.
No. Agreed. Absolutely. What just the stepchild of the group that here he doesn't really have quite a home and just go. This is just all the leftovers. There
Yeah.
you go. No. Agreed. Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely. Yep. No. And again, they also the personal right to grow is a big thing. You know, it's like they got to make sure that that right is protected. And I know that decriminalization always focuses more on possession and not really growing and cultivation. But there's got to be some protected measures there, because again, another anomaly with the loophole. Okay, if it goes Schedule 3,
plant
then
is hemp.
I can grow that in my closet in Colorado. But if I do it in Texas, I'm fucked. You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
crazy to me. You know?
I
Just
mean, not to
wild.
mention that a plant is hemp up to a point. The seed is hemp. And
Right?
it
Like
magically turns to cannabis when there's buds
Yeah.
on it over a
yes,
certain cannabinoid level.
yes, and
Um,
it's just crazy. It's yes,
It's a lot of weird little
It's wild.
moments.
yes. It's a crazy time. It really is a crazy time to be alive in terms of the. I mean, in many ways, but the cannabis industry, it's wild. You know, I
But
often wonder what the industry will look like when our kids are grown up. You know,
Well, will they continue to make a mess or will they just move forward?
Right.
I think as we were talking about
Right.
so much today, and I think that's the moral of the conversation today, looking at how long the conversation been going now. Really just call, first of all, y'all do make an impact when you engage locally. I'm not sure us calling the president's going to do a whole lot, right? We can't really
yeah,
control what they do. But if we call our local senators, representatives, and say, hey, let me take a moment of your time and educate you on cannabinoids. I know that there's some legislation going through the state, and I want to make sure that you're properly informed. Or, hey, let me educate you. I think we made some mistakes on some previous legislation, and it might be time we find somebody to write some new legislation. This is why let me educate you on cannabinoids. People got to start making these calls. We can't lose. Again, federal legalization at this point is inevitable.
mm-hmm.
The hemp industry getting slapped around for the legalization of this to be rolled out does not make any sense. When you really break it down, we can just build on top of this, use this as a safety net, allow for this to triple down on the research being done.
Yes.
Roll out the same regulatory measures on both ends, tax it, whatever you got to do. But they don't understand this, and that's why the education part, right? Get on the phone, maybe just write an email, whatever you can do. If you want email templates, you can reach out to me on Discord. I can definitely get you some of those, etc. Also, do join the Discord down below. We've taken a couple weeks off of giveaways. We're going to take one more week off of giveaways. We're shipping out the last 2 winners' prizes on a Monday. If you have questions about where your prize has been, that would be NXEE as well as Sticky Icky. They're both getting cartridges.
Sweet.
It is pretty cool. But next week, 100%, we'll have a giveaway going. And hopefully some other big news about everything going on for the community and joint effort in general. But guys, I hope each and every single one of you had a great session. I want to take one more rip with you all.
Take a ripski.
Ooh.
Take one more ripski, Jerry. Y'all, while Jerry takes his rip, because I'm not going to get my vape loaded. I appreciate y'all. We appreciate you guys. Again, we'll be back next week. I think we're going to start doing some pre-recorded episodes as well. But again, hop in the Discord if you have not yet. The link is in our description here. Jump in. We're always having sessions, updating you guys on the latest news, deals, life in general, y'all. We got a cool little community building. So if you're not in there yet, join. Okay. That looked like a fat rip.
Yeah, I
That
actually got
piece
the
is
whole
beautiful.
snap to go through.
Yeah, dude. Gorgeous bong.
Thank you. Thank you.
Do you name your pieces?
No, never really
No.
named them. I've always kind of referred to them all as females. Would like to get a shelf set
Okay.
up. But once maybe I get like
Hell
some
yeah.
sort of display set up for them. At
Hell
that
yeah.
point, I don't know.
Very cool, man.
Usually, I'd have the daily driver and everything else sits in a closet, and the
Yeah,
daily
I
driver
get you.
broke.
Oh, yeah, I know. So sad.
So, again, everybody, much love. We'll catch you soon. But till then.